Friday evening. Welcome to Long Shots Sports. I'm your host, TheRhino. Alongside me, as usual, Donnie right side. How you doing tonight, Donnie?
Doing very good, man. Let's see what we could do this week.
Awesome. We're going to talk some football. We'll talk a little college football and a little bit of NFL tonight. But before we jump into that, we've got a new segment for you. It's called the Razor File. This is written by one of our cappers, CJ Razor, who's a writer, and you'll get the gist of it as we go along here. It's a sunny but very chilly day in Las Vegas. There's a solemn mood throughout the Strip. There's a vibe of resentment from most service workers, including Fandi Hakoun, the head chef at MGM's buffet. A slightly overweight male in his mid-30s is seen exiting the sports book with a smile on his face as he heads to the buffet. He made a killing on NHL betting for the fifth straight night. The casinos have had several summits that discussed the free escort and free buffet policies, but it has gotten to the point that things are in financial danger. The fountains at the Bellagio are still inactive, with the exception of one that is spraying a stream of water stream weaker than the primitive Super Soaker model. The ship at the Treasure Island has many defects and could be on the verge of sinking anytime soon. With the lack of funds to hire adequate housekeepers, the royal throne room at the Excalibur Castle has become filthier than the castle's dungeon. Even King Arthur himself has opted to move out onto Fremont Street for comfort reasons. However, in today's committee, Pilates is the main topic of the meeting. Officials have agreed to take baby steps to recovery, and this will begin with Vegas slowly, gently moving her legs down from behind her head. The Strip has taken matters into their own hands and will officially name their first major professional sports team on Tuesday. In essence, Vegas will manifest itself in Canada's national winter sport. Vegas will take control of the NHL and fight back against those who have cost them money over the years. The NHL will resist the same protection used on free escorts over the years, but only so much can be protected. Vegas will get what they want, as their malicious intent to take over will come into play. The NHL will unwillingly allow a portion of the league to seep through and become part of the Vegas legacy. Vegas will form a posse like a cult, extracting members from a safe community household. They will feed off the rest of the NHL, and these rejects will form a rebellion against the rest of the league. And if the masses start to jump aboard with this revolution of the Las Vegas bandwagon, let's just say a few audibles will be made. Defenders may suddenly forget how to skate backwards. Forwards may also forget which way they are supposed to be attacking. Goaltenders may forget which hand they catch with. Vegas will rise and take back their kingdom. Very good, Woods. That's basically CJ's take on NHL coming to Las Vegas. So it's going to be interesting, and it's an interesting twist. Thank you, CJ. All right, Donnie, let's jump in there with some college football action.
Let's do it.
1 o'clock, Florida at LSU. This ought to be a great game. LSU is favored by 14.5 to 15, depending on the lines. I think it's going to be a smash-mouth football game, Donnie. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, not two high-flying offenses is not the words that you would use between LSU and Florida here. I think overall talent-wise, LSU is a more talented football team, dual running backs that can challenge anybody in the country, getting a little bit better quarterback play this year out of their quarterback than previous years. Good defense. Crowd's going to be motivated there. It is, if you keep in mind, again, this was the canceled game that was supposed to be played in Florida, but due to a missed hurricane, they did cancel that game, and this is the precursor of that. Next year they're going to roll it back to Florida, but they agreed to flip premises is just for this 1 year. It is a high line. 14.5 is a tough line to cover anytime during the SEC. I just don't see enough firepower from Florida to compete with LSU. LSU is going to be high and mighty. They want this game. They want to continue that surge in the SEC. I think LSU wins this football game relatively low scoring. It's a 39-point line in Vegas for the total. I see it going just over that total, maybe somewhere in that 34 to 17, 34 to 14 type ball game. I think LSU is going to win this one and cover here, Tony.
All right. Yeah, I think it's going to be a little lower scoring in my opinion. I think we're looking somewhere around a 19 20 to 15, 17 game in my opinion on that one. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a slugfest. All right, let's jump down to number 22 Washington State against number 10 Colorado. Colorado's getting 6.5 at home, down to maybe 5.5 in some lines depending on where you're at. These two teams can definitely score, but do you see that kind of thing happening in this particular game, Donnie?
There's no doubt about it. They both can score in this football game. I did take a little bit of notes earlier because I'm probably going to be on this action a little bit later tonight. Not going to tell you which way I technically lean or going to be firing, but there are some good concepts here. Opening line early in the week was 3.5 for Colorado, ballooned all the way up to 6.5 a little bit earlier today, Tony. Yep. But you are correct. Some of these lines within the last half hour have shifted back to 5.5. Colorado's total offense, 32nd in the nation. That just simply means how many yards they accumulate per game. With Washington State 50th on total defense, going to be a pretty good matchup there. But the key here is, I mean, it's been a while since we got to talk good Colorado Buffalo football. I mean, they were a good team last year, but they're a much improved team this year looking at them game by game. And more importantly, Jim Leavitt, who was the former head coach for the South Florida Bulls, he's their defensive coordinator and really resurged that defense. They're 12th overall in the country in total defense. And you know, with the air raid offense that Mike Leach has, the total offense for Washington State is 10th overall. This game is going to come down to third down conversions. There's going to be a battle of two teams that are very good at what they do. Colorado on defense, Tony, is 10th in the nation at third down conversion percentage, meaning keeping you from getting a first down. Washington State, on the other hand, Tony, 10th in the nation in third down conversion percentage. This game is going to be won on third down. Which team, if you feel, is going to be able to hold that team off the field and prevent them from moving forward, that's going to be the winner of this game. That is my stat line of the game, 10th in the nation on both sides of the football. The winner of that battle tomorrow, if one team can go 45% in their favor, they're going to get the win on that one.
All right. So let's jump down to the 7 o'clock game here. Number 4, Clemson at Wake Forest. Wake Forest is getting 22.5 at home. The reason I wanted to talk about this team, I mean, Clemson had its letdown game, and, you know, Wake Forest hasn't been all that bad. They've actually been covering in a lot of the spreads in the games that they've been playing. Do you see, I mean, you know, Wake Forest is at home here, so do we see a potential upset and Clemson gets its second loss?
No, there's no upset even possible in the situation. If you look at the schedule for Wake Forest, they play people close typically. Didn't play Louisville close, played them close for a little bit. I mean, their whole goal, if you watch, they get out-athleted, and that's going to be the problem here tomorrow. If you're looking at games with, like, the Dukes of the world, you know, maybe even like NC State-type football teams, even though NC State did beat them up quite a bit, but the teams, Boston College, they can hang with that team because they're coached very well and coached very well in close ball games. The games that Wake Forest has trouble in, Tony, is when the other team simply has better athletes. If you watched last week when they played versus Louisville, they had the early lead 12-3 at the half. They did nothing to earn that except Louisville just fumbled the football. Literally on offense, they would get the ball on the 30-yard line, hand it off on a delay 3 times for 3 yards, and kick a field goal. And you saw in the second half they were outscored 34-0 and got rocked right off the football. They're going to try that same type of thing with Clemson. Now, Clemson last week had a demoralizing loss at home to Pittsburgh as the number 1 team or number 2 team in the country, clearly headed to the football playoff. They have now, with everybody losing after them last week, that reinvigorated staff. The team knows what's ahead of it now. Now it's all about putting your head down, winning the ACC, and getting right back in the top 4, which they will. I see Wake Forest keeping it close because I don't even think they care if they win the game. They just don't want to get blown out. But the athletes are going to take over here. Once Wake Forest is down 14 points, Tony, it's a wrap. They won't even be able to get first downs later in this football game. I think overall, it's hard to take a road team with 3 touchdowns, but just the way this game is setting up, knowing that Wake Forest can't do a thing versus Clemson, they're going to try to hang around, slow it down, run the play clock down to 1. It's not going to be enough at the end. I see 3 to 4 touchdown victory from Clemson here just because Wake Forest doesn't have the athletes to compete here.
All right, they're putting the pedal to the metal then.
Yes.
All right, 8 o'clock game, Oklahoma at West Virginia. This is definitely a game that I'm going to be
Good one.
watching. It's on the
Yep.
radar. West Virginia is a dog at home here by 3.5 against that Oklahoma team who's ranked number 9, Donnie.
Yeah, interesting game here. I'm going to be looking at this one a little bit later on this evening as well. Usually during the week, just to give you a little bit of thought on what my capping and how I go about doing things, it's always nice to digest the games on Monday and Tuesday.
Sure.
Wednesday, Thursdays, when you filter those games down, circle about 15 games that you like, and then really get into the nuts and bolts of those games. And this is one of those that I'm going to take a much closer look at. The one thing that definitely, Tony, stands out is Oklahoma's offense, the numbers they put up. Total offense in the nation, 3rd overall. Passing efficiency, which throws in completions, yardage per completion, incompletions, interceptions, touchdown passes, number 1 in the nation in that total. Rushing offense, you figure if you're number 1 in passing efficiency, number 3 in total offense, you probably are using more of the air raid than you would on the ground. Not so much. They're a top 25 run team in the country. 3rd down conversions, how well do they move the sticks, Tony? 6th overall in the nation in conversion percentage. Red zone offense is 37th in the nation. You say, well, maybe that's not that good. They get down in the red zone just about as much as anybody else in the country. So it's just a matter of attrition where if you miss a field goal or a touchdown, it's going to be held against you there. Sacks, 56th in the nation, giving it up. But astounding numbers from Oklahoma on the offensive side of the football. Yeah. It's a tough place to play at night in Morgantown. If the weather is good, I'm looking at leaning towards Oklahoma getting the outright victory there in Morgantown.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you there, Donnie. I mean, Oklahoma's very consistent, 558 yards average per game. Road games 586, turf games 623, conference games 593. I mean, very consistent, very well-rounded, great numbers. 71.4% passing completions, 10 yards per play, 10.5 yards per play. So, I mean, those are outstanding numbers, like you were mentioning. West Virginia, on the other hand, you know, they're still comparable, 496 yards average. Home games 506, 6.5 yards per play. So, yeah, this should be a very, very interesting game, and definitely one that we're both going to be dipping into.
Yeah, it's going to be good. Another interesting angle on that one, Tony, is if you want to take a look at the total in that game,
Yes.
Both offenses lighted up, both defenses questionable at some point, because in the Big 12, just the way the teams play offense there, it's hard to play. I mean, you're not going to get like a BC type of team that you can go up against to pad your stats on defense. Right. If you look at total defense for Oklahoma, that's just yards given up. They're 81st in the country. And if you look at West Virginia, it's 66th in the nation. And 3rd down conversions for Oklahoma, 109th in the nation on defense, giving up 3rd down conversion percentage. There's going to be some points in this ball game. So if you're not happy with the side here, you can't go wrong with both of these quarterbacks and both of these offenses.
Absolutely. I agree. All right. Well, before we jump over to NFL, Donnie, is there a game that you want to talk about?
I haven't had anything exactly that I like, but just to give you a look on what's going to be on my radar tonight, Colorado, Washington State, obviously, West Virginia, Oklahoma. There's a couple smaller games that I'm really interested in, and one injury information that you're going to want to keep track of because I think it's going to be a diamond in the rough. And again, I like to find these lower conference games, Conference USA, Sun Belt type of wagers. Yeah. Take a look down there with Southern Miss and North Texas tomorrow. 2 key injuries. Last week for North Texas, their starting quarterback got knocked out of the game. The week before that, their starting running back was knocked out. 2 key weapons are going to be out for this one. If Southern Miss can get Nick Mullins back at quarterback, if they win this game, they'll be bowl eligible. It's just a nice angle that you want to look at. Nick Mullins last week was supposed to go ahead and play versus Old Dominion. At the last minute, came out and warmed up. They sat him for the true freshman. The true freshman, Tony, accounted for 5 turnovers in that game, 4 turnovers in the first half. ODU blew him off the field, and it was too late to recover. They ended up losing by 16 points. I think they'll be refocused this week. They're going against a very poor defensive team, and I think it might be one. If Nick Mullins starts here, people, go ahead and roll with Southern Miss.
There we go. All right. A couple of games that are already underway tonight. You've got Memphis at Cincinnati. Memphis is up 20-0 on Cincinnati. And UNLV at Boise State. UNLV just kicked a field goal, and they are up 3-0 in that game. Memphis is in the second quarter, 5:49 to go till a half. And the UNLV Boise game is just underway. So.
Good call. Actually, Tony, I thought you were clairvoyant there for a second. I thought the Boise State game was later. I'm like, man, you might have a crystal ball there, but yeah, you are correct. 3-0. I had to actually check my phone and the TV going, where's he getting that from? That's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm just channeling. What's his name? I can't. Escapes me. The guy that does that. Skip and Shannon. Anyway.
Just can say, get that crystal ball out. You saw the
Yeah.
3-0 already. I'm like, I better get on this game.
All right, let's talk a little NFL action for
Yes,
tomorrow.
absolutely.
We've got some great games. Dallas has been underwhelmingly impressive.
Took my money last week, that's for sure, and I was not happy about it.
Yeah, a lot of people, I believe. And they are at home against Baltimore. It's a 1:00 game, and Dallas is laying 7.5 on that game. What do you see there, Don?
Interesting game, Tony. I think the number is right on. The one thing I always like about Baltimore is they're going to bring their defense, and they're not going to let you just shred them on the ground, which is obviously what Dallas wants to do. Dallas is in the cockpit right now. Looks like the best team in football. You could maybe make an argument Seattle or the Patriots, but the Patriots losing last week. Dallas is every bit as good as any other of the top flight squads here. That 7.5 hook for some reason just digs at me because Baltimore, who I think can win the game, I think they can win the game. NFL, I mean, most of these teams are matched up right well, but just the way Baltimore plays, I think plays right into a nice game for Dallas. I don't know if Dallas can win this game by double digits at home. Do I think Dallas is going to win the football game? The odds makers are saying they're going to win that game. But don't, write off Baltimore here getting more than a touchdown. You know me, Tony. Every week we talk. I can't stand Baltimore as a favorite, but Baltimore as an underdog is a damn good play.
Yeah, they're a little bit dangerous as an underdog. But the thing that I look at in this game is just yards per game. I mean, Baltimore's averaging 333, where Dallas is averaging 412 or better. Last 3 games, 435, and it's just to me, there's a little bit of a lopsidedness to it. And if Dallas can get it on the ground, establish that run, and take dominance over that line, Baltimore's going to have a tough time staying in this game, I believe.
It's going to be a good one. The way I'm looking at it now, it's probably not going to be on my radar. But every time Dallas is on there, I want them to lose. So I'm definitely going to be watching. But you're right on that.
Brother.
I mean, stepping into that locomotive that Dallas is right now. I mean, they're the best offensive line in the game. A quarterback playing way over his head and playing unbelievable football. Unbelievable running back. And it's just, it's hard to go against that because that's the mix that wins in the NFL.
Yeah, there's a lot of memes going around the internet and on Facebook about Tony Romo losing his job to Dak, and I believe there was a press conference where they asked him that very question.
Yeah. He didn't take any questions. He wrote a prepared statement, Tony.
Prepared statement. Okay.
Yeah, didn't want any backlash up there. I'm in and I'm out.
So he just stated where his place was, and that was it.
Well, I'll tell you what would be really interesting. I mean, obviously, you can't – it's just a matter of how sports is. I mean, you know as well as I do. When things are running good, you don't make the change because the same way gamblers are, the same way sports teams are, it's very superstitious. If you take Dak out and you put Tony in, what happens if you lose 2 in a row and, it all falls downhill? But you can't take a look at it that way. It's just a shame that Tony Romo, he's a good guy, and just being an NFC East fan, everybody's a Dallas hater. You sort of feel for him saying, he did have his best team. He would have got hurt by game 4 anyway. Just let it ride out the season. Even if Dallas loses to Baltimore, there shouldn't be a call to, hey, Tony's got to get in there and lead us. Let Dak play. The kid's playing unbelievable. Let him finish it out. That's your quarterback.
I agree 100%. And worse yet, if Romo does get back in there, gets injured again.
Yeah, come on. You break up all the momentum.
Yeah, and who's going to buy out that contract?
Oof. $17 million next year.
So Ricky wants to know, Donnie, who are your 3 hottest college football teams to follow from now up until the playoffs?
Now up into the playoffs, and interesting, again, everybody's getting back into the equation. You're going to want to look in the Pac-12. You're going to want to look at Washington because now they're going to be reinvigorated. Obviously, you're going to want to watch Alabama to see how they finish the season. As much as, yes, I believe they are the best team in the country, you still got to play the Iron Bowl versus Auburn, and that's always a tough one. You've seen it in the past. Those games nip each other in the bud all the time. As a third, maybe like an outsider-type ball club there, I mean, it's, you want to watch the Clemsons of the world there, but maybe something that I want to see is how Michigan transitions with a new quarterback and how Ohio State's going to finish because you're looking at the Iron Bowl and you're looking at the big game. Those are the 2 games coming up a lot of fun and excitement. Those are the teams I'll be watching.
All right. Okay, let's see. What do we got on the radar here? Jacksonville at Detroit. Detroit's favored by 6.5 to 7 on some lines. Jacksonville is playing so-so. Detroit is, playing decent behind Matthew Stafford. They are coming off a bye week. Lo and behold, they didn't even have to play to move into first place. How you like that?
Yeah.
Do you see Matthew continuing this trend? I mean, I like him as a good quarterback. He's very solid, consistent. He's smart, but I still think he makes some of those rookie mistakes.
I love him at home. Yeah.
Yeah, at home he's confident, but I don't against Jacksonville. I think they have no trouble covering that line.
It's interesting because they don't tend to blow teams out at home, and for some reason they tend to get off to like a slower start, or like they always have that quarter collapse, but then Matthew Stafford is able to calm it down and get everything back under control. The one thing is that I'm looking forward to Detroit. Is DeAndre Levy ever going to get on the field for Detroit? I mean, just get your best. You need that guy. I mean, he is a horse. That's always the thing I look at. Same thing with Darius Slay. You think he's going to play?
Yeah.
I heard he's practicing this week for the first time, I believe, since the first week of the season.
Yeah, I think since they've got Jacksonville at home, I think he'll probably see limited snaps, but I think he's going to see some action.
And I mean, Jacksonville, all that talent, I guess they just can't coach him. And Blake Bortles, he should be taking the lead this year and really improving his game, but. Yeah. I don't know what to make of Jacksonville. Like we talked early in the season, we went over all the early type of scenarios, and we said Jacksonville's talented. It's probably not their year yet, but they're going to make strides. They're going backwards still. Something has to change there.
Yeah, and I do think it's a coaching issue.
It has to be.
Yeah. All right, let's see. What do we got here? Buffalo at Cincinnati. Another 1:00 game. Cincinnati getting 2.5 at home against Buffalo. Buffalo's been a stout team this year with the run and the run defense. Cincinnati has had its moments where it's shined, but overall, I don't know if Cincinnati can. They're pretty banged up as well. I don't know if they can hold Buffalo off here, Donnie. I think that line is actually reversed.
And that line is actually talking to you right there when you're saying, how many times you're going to see Cincinnati at home. Outside of playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, that line is going to be 2.5. Yeah. Buffalo finally getting a little bit of a break there after getting that tough loss up in Seattle. It's a really interesting ball game because it's going to be a rested team versus a Cincinnati team where I don't really know what they are. I mean, if you watch them, the talent is there, and the record that when you just take a look, you say 3-5-1. It doesn't make any sense to me until Cincinnati proves, which this is going to be one of those games where they really need to prove it if their season is over. I can't back them.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Injury-wise, Buffalo has got a few that could be impactful in that game. Tyler Eifert's probable for Sunday. So he's a big component to that Cincinnati offense, but we'll have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, it's like the A.J. Green show, and they have two great running backs. You tell me losing Marvin Jones and Mohamed Sanu was that big of a deal? It might have been, I guess. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, real quickly, Tampa Bay at Kansas City. Kansas City, the Lions opened at 7.5, was up to 9 in some places. What do you think about that game, Don?
Betting against Kansas City in Kansas City is a tall order anytime. But again, that line is, I'm telling you, Las Vegas loves to play with people because you look at the line or you look at the game itself, you go, Kansas City is going to bust up Tampa Bay. And then you take a look at the line, you go 7.5. Because that hook is major because, a double-digit game doesn't matter in the NFL in the last 3 minutes unless you're a sports bettor. So this one's going to be one of those games that'll come down. With Tampa Bay, they're going to make their mistakes. Jameis Winston, Mike Evans. But that same combination late in the game, if they're down 14 points, those two can connect and move the football. But it's Kansas City at home. They're hot. I look for one of those type of ball games, those typical Kansas City games, Tony, 24-10, 17-9, something like that, the way they like to play it. I would lean towards Kansas City just because they're a hot football team and they're starting to get a little bit better. Back with the injuries and, Alex Smith, Charkandrick West, those type of guys are rounding back in the form. I would lean Kansas City here. I can't stand that 7.5 number, but I would lean that way.
Once you go Dak, you never go back.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody posted out there.
That is the right thing.
Where do the Raiders finish this season, Donnie?
Where do the Raiders finish?
Yeah.
I think I think they're the best team in the NFC West. I mean, even though you look and say, hey, Kansas City's still there, and they should be, pound for pound, player for player, I think they're the best team as long as they don't trip themselves up. Yes, are they going to lose maybe a game at Denver or, at Kansas City? If they just take care of their business against the teams they're supposed to beat, they're the most talented team out there. I know Denver's got the great defense, but Denver doesn't have the quarterback. Carr is that next level player. I think they can win the NFC West.
Yeah. And they do have the Monday night game at home against Houston.
And they should win that game. They win that game, Tony. The Raiders are 8-2.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Unbelievable.
Okay, who'd have thought? All right, let's talk about the Sunday night game, Green Bay at Washington. Washington's favored by 2.5 to 3. Boy, does either one of these? I mean, this has been a messed up season just for both of those teams, especially Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. They just have not been able to click.
They have first of all, the Packers have no running game.
Yep.
And the one thing that you have, obviously, is Aaron Rodgers, and you have to keep him upright. Here's the problem. Bakhtiari last week, looks like he's going to play this week, but he's banged up. You go down with T.J. Lang, starting guard, downgraded to out. J.C. Treader, center, downgraded to out.
Yeah.
If you have no running game and you're going to say Aaron Rodgers, the way they've been doing it the past 2 to 3 weeks, is passing 50 times a game, they're not going to win this football game. And Washington's not the greatest team in the world, but they do play well at home. And that line is what, 2.5, maybe 3 in some outlets. I can't take Green Bay. I mean, you saw what they did on the road, and I know there's something about buying low, selling high, and all that good stuff there. But this isn't a Green Bay team coming home to get healthy. This is an even more banged up team. And until they get Clay Matthews, which probably is going to make his return back this week, that's going to help. But he's not 100% healthy as well. Their secondary is banged up. Give me the Skins here.
All right. Real quickly, Donnie, forget the point spread. Philadelphia or Seattle?
Look, the Eagles right now, Tony, are 5-4. I already put a 5 at the crossed off the 4 and put a 5. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to watch the game with no emotion because this is our worst case scenario.
Yeah.
We as Eagles have no wide receivers whatsoever. Seattle has the best secondary in the league. So right off the bat, we can't pass the ball. Right. And you say, how are we going to exploit that? Let's take Zach Ertz, good tight end, mobile. He hurt his hamstring in practice this week. So if you take Zach Ertz out, Jordan Matthews was lifting on Tuesday, hurt his back with a back spasm, and practiced sporadically throughout the week. I don't know how we're scoring, and I'm not going to get mad. It's Seattle.
All right. Okay, well, guys, that's hopefully gives you some information for the upcoming games, some of the top ones. And real quickly, our Long Shots TV college football plays of the week are currently 4-1, and for tomorrow, we're going to give you the Big Ten matchup, Ohio State at Michigan State, and we're going to take Michigan State plus 22. Here's the key, guys. 60% chance of rain, 30-mile-an-hour winds, and 28-degree wind chill factor. There's not going to be a lot of points scored in this game, and Michigan State will definitely have the cover. All right.
And keep in mind out there, folks, on that Michigan State game there, rewinded a couple weeks back, they did play Michigan right down to the bell. Yeah. I like it, Tony.
This is always a tough game. It's always tough.
Yep.
All right. Okay, guys, make sure you go over to DonnieRightside.com and see Donnie there. You can see him at TrendBetters.com. This show, Long Shot TV, is sponsored by TrendBetting.com. And also you can stop by and see the Rhino at Tony TheRhino 1 on Twitter. And we appreciate you guys being with us tonight. And remember to take a shot with long shots because we are the game. Even get to